This program was initially put in place as a result of very clear evidence in the cultural brokerage program, which is the program that is tied in with Children's Services, where more than half of the cases involved with child welfare were family violence related. So we knew we had to respond to that in some way. And we also know that the mainstream family violence system is not necessarily responsive to the needs of our clients, newcomers, clients, and we wanted to look at that differently. We were always trying to advocate for a bit of a shift in the mainstream family violence sector, because in our experience, the mainstream sector is built on individual service and individual rights, actually, whereas the families we serve come from a collective perspective and are looking to secure the family as a whole. The program at Apartment 1310 has been in operation since June 2018, and the key features are to offer temporary accommodation to newcomer men that are involved in family violence, to reduce the impact of disruption on the family, and to reduce the financial burdens that could happen to a newcomer family if there needs to be separation, and to offer immediate support to newcomer men involved in family violence.
1310 Cool Down Apartment program is designed to provide temporary accommodation for perpetrators of family violence, right? So it's been for men who have been asked to leave their homes because of Children's Services involvement, a court order, an EPO, or one of those reasons, and they have no place to stay. They either have no friends here, no family here, don't know anyone else, so they need a place to stay in the meanwhile while they make some changes to their life, understand the behavior that they're doing, and try to get better, try to do things differently. So the Cool Down Apartment provides them a temporary accommodation for that and connects them to those kind of services, to those kind of support for them to actually make those positive changes in their lives. While people who perpetrate family violence obviously have not done a good thing, it needs to be considered from what are they doing right, what's working well for them, and what can we do to support them, a strength-based approach, if you will, because even in times of chaos, there are some things that are working out for you. There are some things that families are doing well, even if they're going through family violence. So we have to work with that. We really stop at the beginning to listen to the immigrant families' stories. We really take into account their whole journey, the whole immigrant journey that brought them here. And we use that to build a relationship with the client, right? We build a rapport, we establish a working alliance with them, which in the long term actually saves us time. Because of that, because we've taken the time to actually listen to them and hear their story, they're more likely to trust us. They're more likely to now listen to us and understand what we're telling them in the process for their change. We do at least 3 sessions with them. So we talk to them about the family violence in the Canadian culture and what the system now expects of them to do once there's a family violence case. We talk to them about the effects on children, right? What happens to children when they are exposed to family violence? What are the consequences on their development and their brain development? And also we talk to them and compare with them healthy, unhealthy, and abusive relationships. So they get to see the difference of how things aren't working and shouldn't work, and how things should be and how they should work.
We have a family violence broker working specifically with men, and we have a partner broker, which is new, a female family violence worker working with women as well. So in every situation, we're always hoping to offer a simultaneous support and counseling, so that one, they receive the mother and father receive the same information. So if they do get back together, they understand what the change behavior means, and two, that we can explain to the mother and the children where their father is, what they're doing. And so there's transparency around what's happening, as opposed to just this mysterious, the father's gone, we don't know what's happening. The goals of the program are defined by the clients, by the families involved. So, and usually the families that we serve would like to be reunified as a family. So family reunification with, of course, a change in behavior. So we want to reduce family violence, impact incidents of family violence, ensure safety in the home, and ensure healthy relationships for children and parents and the whole family involved. But if the outcome is that the family would like to separate, then we support that as well. So we support whatever the outcome the clients want during the process.
So initially they can stay here for 1 month, 30 days to do that, and if it is needed, we've allowed in the past to have them an extension for another month, so another 30 days. To this day, we've had 24 dads in over a year and a half that the program has been running. A little under a half of them, so 10, have been allowed to go back home while they're staying in the apartment. And then, so some have been still been asked to stay out of the home, and their time in the apartment has run out, unfortunately. If we add those, then it's been 14. So more than half of them have been allowed to return back home. What really makes it a promising practice is that it fills a gap in the system. It really, there is a need, a clear need of perpetrators of domestic violence to actually get that support, to actually understand that it's the men who need to change. It's the men who need to do something different and understand the responsibilities of their actions, right? This program not only fills that gap in working with men, which is, again, a necessary thing in solving the problem of domestic violence, but it also supports them in giving them a place, a space to do that, and connecting them essentially to those services. Of all the families that I work with, I would say that 100% of them love their children. They, a lot of the times, just don't understand that if it's a problem between me and my wife are fighting, me and my wife are yelling at each other, and our children are exposed and our children see that, they can be affected. Their development can be affected. Their brain can be hampered. The hormones that they produce, can really cause a brain damage in their future. So they love their children. They don't want that to happen. That's a big part in what we do to help them change, right? We help them understand, hey, this is for your kids, right? And it's a big motivator.
So the program in its first year was evaluated using more of a developmental evaluation approach. So there were lots of interviews with the family violence specialist. We also developed an intake assessment form that assesses both risk for the perpetrators coming into the apartment, but also asks a few questions relevant to the evaluation. Most of that information is then kept in a database in terms of some of the client demographics and their backgrounds and things. Then when clients are finished at the apartment, we conduct an exit survey. The family violence specialist sits down and conducts that as in sort of an interview format, and some of the questions are matched to some of the intake questions. And then at 6 months after someone has moved out of the apartment, I contact them as an external evaluator and ask them about sort of where they're at now, ask them to reflect on things they may have learned in the apartment, and sort of chat with them about whether family violence in their home has changed at all. 92% of the participants indicated that at the end of the program, they'd been connected to supports that would help them avoid family violence in the future. So that could be things like a men's group, counseling, that sort of stuff. 83% of the participants indicated that they'd learned new things specifically about the impacts of family violence, and 83% of the participants indicated that the time that they were able to spend at the apartment gave them a chance to sort of cool down, think about their actions, and consider strategies for moving forward in a way that would avoid violence in their home. A lot of the participants talked about learning about the impacts of family violence on their kids and understanding how they could be more positive parents moving forward. When we talked to people 6 months out of the program, most of them said that family violence in their household had decreased. When we asked them about the types of things that they'd learned and the types of changes that had happened in their home, they talked about better communication in their home, being able to manage their anger better, having better strategies to resolve conflict that didn't involve violence, and then having better sort of relationships with their kids and strategies for engaging with their kids in a positive way. They talk about sort of a lasting connection with the family violence specialist. They feel like he really listened to them, he really worked with them, and they all say, they're like, he's the greatest guy, and they really appreciate that. And often they talk about as well sort of the fact that the program happens at a time when they're in crisis or very, very high stress, and just the fact that it alleviates that stress, it gives them a time to cool down, to figure out where they need to go next and how they need to change. We ask them where they might have gone otherwise. And some people say, I might have stayed with a friend, I might have, stayed with a community member. And a few people have said, I would have had to go to a homeless shelter. I don't know where I would have been. So they really appreciate that they're able to come to a really calm, beautiful apartment. And then as soon as they get there, they're supported in figuring out how do they move forward. A lot of the people who had been in the program were able to reunite with their families. Children's services were no longer involved and had determined the home to be safe. At program intake, 75% of the clients entering the program stated that their ultimate goal would be to be reunited with their family after sort of the Children's Services mandated period of separation. Immediately after the program, not all of them were reunited with their families. At 6 months, when we touched base with them 6 months out, 67% of them had achieved that goal of reunification, and Children's Services really only allows that if they feel that the family home will be safe for the children.
This program could absolutely be duplicated. I think, again, the biggest challenge is physical, capital. We own the building and it has 10 units in it, and so 2 units have been dedicated to this program. So you would need physical capital to run this program, or a very understanding landlord. The resources you need are, the family violence broker is responsible for all of the intake and assessment and monitoring and the education piece of offering support and counseling to clients. There's actually a CCIS member that lives in this building, which is quite beneficial because although they're not responsible for the program, it's nice to have oversight. It's an unmonitored, it's a secure building, but it's not, we don't offer a 24-hour staffing, but there is someone on site, which is nice. We deliberately hired a male broker because we knew that we needed to, create the conditions for men to feel comfortable and safe in sharing their experience and trust someone a bit more inherently. You definitely need to come from a place of non-judgment and want to be willing to support behavior and also have very clear boundaries, but also be a little bit strict because you're dealing with the nature of the client and the situation. It's vulnerable, but a bit risky at the same time.